Hey, it's Randall. I'm not an actual psychotherapist, but let's face it, I'm neurotic enough to actually be one. You're nodding really aggressively at that. That irritates me. That bothers me. I don't know why you have to be that way. You're always like that. Every time I try to talk to you about something, it's just like what was with that? I'm not actually angry at you. It's just, have you ever had those conversations with people where you're talking about something seemingly innocuous, seemingly simple, just shooting the. And for whatever reason, they respond in a way you weren't expecting. They get angry, they get sad, they get short, they get whatever, and you're just left wondering like, what was the disconnect between the topic you were talking about and their emotional response to it? Well, in normal life, the reality is that people are living a day. Before that conversation happened, whether it's that day, that week, that month, there could be something in the conversation that you are completely unaware of, a context that you don't know, that affects how they respond to the topic of the moment. It doesn't even have to be the topic, it could just be having the conversation. It could be me making a request for them to decide something and they're just not ready to do it. Or they've had everyone breathing down their neck to make choices and they just feel too much pressure. I tell you this not to improve your life specifically. I'm not telling you anything you haven't seen or heard somewhere else, but I'm telling it to you. I'm sharing it with you because this can be a really helpful thing to keep in the back of your mind when you're writing scenes and stories, when you've got characters engaging with each other and you want something a bit more than just two talking heads. Right? We watch a lot of films, we read a lot of books, two people sitting at a table and they're just talking to each other. And the conversation could be very superficial. God knows we engage in a lot of those ourselves. But there's more to these characters, particularly when you're writing something like a novel or a screenplay or a short story or something fictional, right? There's a depth to what's happening in that character's day or in those characters' day, that can really influence how they're feeling in that moment. I like to say that when you've got a character who's acting out of character, that's when you want to pay the most attention. When they're responding angrily to something they shouldn't be angry over, when they become quiet or reserved when normally they wouldn't be, when they hold distance or they don't engage as fully as they might otherwise, pay attention. um, Something's going on and it can layer in a lot of subtext and give a lot of nuance and subtlety to your characters. So this is the thing that I like to talk to my students about, whether it's a screenwriting course or any other storytelling style of class or clients, that type of thing. We look at how their scenes are laid out and how the relationships, how the interactions between the characters are happening, and going, okay, what else is in here? And I find a lot of times when my students are writing, even they're writing with a subtext they don't necessarily realize is there. God knows when I write, I often am putting subtext into conversations that I didn't consciously write. But it's there because I know who my characters are. I know what they've gone through. I try not to even remember what's coming because, in fairness, they don't know what's coming yet. So I try not to let that influence when I write a conversation, when I write an interaction, when I write conflict between characters. But there's so much more going on. There's so much more happening that we layer in as writers, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. And so it's this is the way that we can make these moments stronger, that we can improve the depth and the meaning and the significance of scenes. We can tap into the emotional reservoir of who these characters are and what they're going through, the emotional, the psychological, the physical even. If someone's got a twisted ankle, if someone's been massively over or like working out way too much and their body is sore. Pain is an incredible shaper of perspective. It's an incredible molder of emotional response, right? Um, Pressures at work, pressures from family that maybe have nothing to do with the conversation of the moment can weigh in. Again, like I use that example, if you've been asked, if you've been tasked with decision after decision after decision all day long, suddenly being asked, what do you want to do for dinner? Can be just that one question too much. And yeah, the innocent can sometimes suffer. Or maybe it's part of a longer term pattern between these two characters, a longer term dynamic between these two characters. These are the things you can explore. You can really dive into when it comes to developing your characters. To really trying to figure out who they are, how they interact, and of course, my emotional outburst, my psychological challenge of the moment influences you if you're the person I'm engaged with. And so then it becomes, well, what was your day like, and how is that affecting how you're responding to the way I'm responding to you, right? That we see conversations spiral out of control, where the topic of the moment is completely immaterial. It just was the catalyst. It was the spark that brought these two people together for all hell to break loose. This is something you're interested in getting more into. Again, I'm not a psychotherapist. If you want this for personal reasons, you probably should go talk to somebody, counselor, whatever. But, I do teach writing classes. I do teach screenwriting classes in particular. And, I'll put information around this post to indicate where you can join me if you're interested. Online, in some cases, in person on others. I'm currently about to start teaching classes at George Brown College here in Toronto, both online and in person, about screenwriting and screenwriting workshop. And then also at Toronto's SoCap Comedy Theatre up on the Danforth, I'm going to be teaching a class called Out of Our Minds and Onto the Page, which is a writing and improv thing. We're going to explore everything there is about storytelling, and specifically with regard to writing, doing both writing exercises as well as playing improv games. So even if you're not a performer, don't worry about it. Even if you don't think you're funny, the purpose of this is not funny, despite the fact that it's called the SoCap Comedy Theatre. We're not looking to build comedy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be funny, but that's, it's about experiencing the stories that you're trying to write, the characters you're trying to discover in a much more internal and visceral way to you, right? And hopefully that makes your writing better, more interesting and deeper. Right? Again, the screenwriting classes are about the fundamentals of screenwriting as well as workshopping any screenplay you might have already written. And so again, those details will be somewhere around this post. So I'm hoping to do a series of these short videos to sort of tweak ideas. And I welcome you to join along with me, whether it's in one of the classes or just here on the social media feeds. And let me know what your thoughts are. With today's impromptu subject on characters and emotions and the day that character is having. And let's start a conversation. Doesn't cost to do it on social media. Anyways, have a great day and be creative.